Welcome to the Wednesday, November 15th edition of the PFF Forecast. We have a great slate. We're going to spend no fewer than 60 minutes rewinding back to see if the Cleveland Browns should or should not have traded Josh Dobbs. We'll dig into great detail there, really get into the deep tissues of that whole saga, make sure that we iron out the kinks. We'll talk, of course, about Josh Allen and now that he's free of Ken Dorsey, whether he can get it back together. We're going to do some SGP narratives and, of course, locks of the week. A perfect week last week. We're going to try and make it 2 in a row. Let's rock. I was so focused on my intro, really getting at the point that I was trying to make, that I once again messed up the transition into the intro. So I apologize to everyone that had to see the weird logo there for a second. It is great to be back. We've still got Judah and Brad. Judah, you're making a long trip home to the U.S. tomorrow. We'll just pretend that you were there for the NFL International Series.
I mean, I caught 2 of those games. Similar areas.
Which ones did you go to?
I didn't go to either of them.
Oh, you didn't go to any of them? I've heard from people that have gone to a couple that they've been phenomenal. And what has surprised most of them is the number of people that were actually fans of a given team, which I think is an interesting thing for us to think about and take advantage of next year in preparing for those games. We have no more international games. They're all back in the U.S. And so those are the ones that we will focus on. Let's start with some of the injury news. Obviously, Deshaun Watson out for the year. Couldn't have happened to a worse person. And we feel just absolutely terrible for the Browns organization, who deserves better, quite frankly. After all that they've put up with. He's out for the year. DTR coming into play. Brad, my first question is, do you think this is an attempt at getting a better draft pick, or do they actually think DTR can be any good?
I actually think it's like, look, the DTR game we got was, I think he was told on Friday he was starting against the Baltimore Ravens and Mike McDonald. So, I think we can kind of throw that out the window. I think he has a higher ceiling than PJ Walker right now. I want to say Walker's our lowest graded quarterback in the NFL. And you look at some traditional stats, he's also bottom of the league. So, I actually think it's legit. Also, look at their schedule. If the defense, the defense was already winning them games in the first place. Watson had a good second half against Baltimore and played well against Tennessee. Otherwise, he was a net negative for the team. They play Denver, Chicago, the Rams. They have 4 or 5 very winnable games. They're still a 1-point favorite against Pittsburgh this weekend. So it doesn't really answer your question about DTR. I don't think it's a tank move. I think they think he can win just as much as PJ Walker can. But the benefit is the upside and seeing what you have in a young player. We know what PJ Walker is.
All right. The real question, the only important piece of injury news is whether our king, Devon Achane, is back this week. Why don't you kick us off and take us through some of the injuries around the league?
He was limited today in practice. So him and Pat Freiermuth are the guys activated off IR, 21-day window that were limited today. I think he's going to play. Achane, that is. Less confident about Pat Freiermuth. But it sounds like the injury he had may have even could have been a 3-weeker, and they just, let's put him on IR. Let's play it safe. Let's just take that decision. I think we do get Achane, and Raheem Mostert is limited in practice this week as well. So he might get some big run. The Thursday game, I prognosticated on Sunday night. I was mostly right about the Thursday game. So Ronnie Stanley is out. Marlon Humphrey is doubtful for the Baltimore Ravens. It sounds like Trey Hendrickson is going to play. I think we should keep an eye on how much he does play, maybe an under sack prop or something like that. I do love the matchup against the backup left tackle, but I wonder how much he actually plays. But T. Higgins is out, and Sam Hubbard is out for Cincinnati, which has already been a pretty bad run defense, and he's kind of that run defending edge for them. And then obviously Deshaun Watson is out. And then, of course, Justin Jefferson, another IR activation. The messaging from Kevin O'Connell is a bit soft. I think he could play. Hamstring, though, I think they always give guys extra leeway there. So we'll see on Justin Jefferson.
I mean, I guess there's a reason to bring Jefferson back now. The NFC kind of stinks. Josh Dobbs playing well 2 games in a row. Our Minnesota Vikings futures not totally dead yet, I guess. Although the Lions have a pretty easy schedule coming up. What do we make of the game tomorrow? Obviously, the Hendrickson news is pretty big. No T. Higgins. I'm curious if either of you are placing any weight on like what we saw out of Burrow last week without Higgins. And then additionally, he's kind of always struggled against the Ravens defense. Like that's been his big bugaboo last year. There was like his 2 lowest rated games by a mile were against the Ravens. So any of those things playing into how you feel about that game?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we kind of were in an interesting setup where it's like we saw the 95th percentile Burrow games in back-to-back weeks, and those were high leverage spots. And then we saw kind of like the 40th percentile game last week. And like all of this is kind of known and true. And I think if there's going to be any selling based on last week, like I want to buy Burrow because I actually think it's a relatively known quantity of how good the Bengals are. And like they're 3.5-point underdogs, probably have the better offense. I would say certainly the better quarterback. Yes, T. Higgins is out. I think that, obviously there's a small sample, but also the Bengals know that they've spent all offseason. They've spent a ton of time knowing they're going to have to beat the Ravens. That's like probably their, most important opponent. I trust that they can kind of scheme around that. But ultimately, like what it comes down to, I think, is like 3.5-point underdog, and your offense is like still firing on all cylinders. Like if we just flip the script, and this game was being played last week, like the conversation would be very different, but we didn't learn anything new last week.
Yeah, I guess I'm a little, I feel that the score of that Houston game closer than it should have been for a couple of reasons. First, the Texans unable to capitalize early in the game. And then as we talked about on Sunday, like that game was over. And then CJ Stroud decided to make a Mac Jones-esque throw that really should have been a pick 6, ended up being a touchdown because it got returned to the 3. Like those things go the other way. They could have lost that game by like 20. I think the narrative might be a little different in that case.
It's a good point. And like the Bengals offensive line has just still not been good enough. It's a bit of an Orlando Brown revenge game, maybe for Baltimore more than it is for Orlando Brown. The interior, like Justin Madubuike is playing out of his mind right now. Odafe always playing, like we kind of expected him to play. It's not a great matchup, I think, because you're also down your wide receiver 2, 4, and 5. Like that's the thing I guess I should have mentioned. It's not just T. Higgins. Yes, you still have Jamar Chase and Tyler Boyd, but Charlie Jones and Andre Yeshivas are also out for this game. I guess Trenton Irwin's probably the wide receiver 4. So whatever. You're down your wide receiver 2, 5, and 6. But yeah, no, I mean, I could see them score. I could see them move the football, but I think Baltimore is going to have a much easier time doing that against the Bengals defense that really has not been good this year.
No, they have not. All right. It is time. We're going to get into bets to place this weekend. And as we always do, we kick off with some SGP narratives. Judah, the master of this, he prints them on pff.com every single week, so you can go find them there. And on the podcast, we get an early look of where he's leaning, where he is constructing narratives that he is interested potentially in making some plays on. We don't have any player props usually posted as of this writing or as of this recording, so kind of have to prognosticate here. But it is an early look at your SGP narratives, Judah. Where do you want to start?
Yeah, I feel like this week, a lot of usually I come in, decently confident and like, I'm going to play this angle. I really like it. I feel like there are a lot of like 6 to 7 spots in terms of like we were rating this 110 how I like, but there are a bunch of them this week that I think I'm eyeing. So maybe they'll be shorter, but hopefully a couple more. First, we're going to start with I'm going to go right back to Will Levis and Tennessee against Jacksonville. I think this is going to be kind of this player prop and spread. Right now, the Titans are 7-point underdogs. I'll start with the Jacksonville side of this. I think that there's a ton of potential there. But if you sure, their record's really good, And I know you guys are talking on Sunday night about where you'd rank the Jaguars. I'd have them a lot lower in this current moment. Like maybe their kind of futures outlook is still top of the AFC, but right now they're not playing that way. Their fundamentals are like really totally average. You want to look at any efficiency metric, and I think that will kind of tell that story. So the market, I think, is pricing somewhere in between how they've actually played and the potential we know they can get to. And that leaves us with the 7-point spread, which I think is extremely valuable when I'm thinking about, okay, how are the Titans going to win this game? Jacksonville, as you can see on your screen, the defense has not exactly, especially the ends, have not been great outside of Josh Allen at producing pressure. They have the 5th lowest pressure rate in the NFL. And I think we're getting the early signs of the type of quarterback that Will Levis is. And he is a guy who is not going to have, I don't think, a great pressure to sack rate, but he will be really, really good in structure if he has time to throw. And I think that this matchup is actually a sneaky okay spot for him. And he's going to be so high variance just by virtue of how deep he throws. He has like an 11.3 ADOT. If you get a couple of those to hit, you rack up yards. That's exactly how you're going to win this game. The Jaguars are a pass funnel, not a huge one, but certainly are far better against the run than they are the pass. And if I want to tell the story of, okay, how are the Titans going to win? I think it's going to be through Levis connecting on a bunch of these deep balls against Jacksonville, and combine that with books are saying if you were going to say, let's say like Levis 250 or Levis 275 and Tennessee minus 2.5, they're going to price the passing yards as not correlated. They'd say it's much more correlated to the Jaguars winning by 14, let's say, and Will Levis coming back. But I actually don't think that's how Tennessee can win this game. That's gonna be my first build. Maybe we'll throw in some Hopkins there too, depending on pricing.
Yeah, I was going to ask about who you would kind of throw it in. So like there's clearly a Will Levis, 270, 280 plus, Titans maybe minus 2.5 play there. If you were to pair it with someone else, like Hopkins, the only skill position player that even remotely makes you excited. But is there a matchup that maybe we're not seeing that, we should think about, whether it be, Okonkwo, Chig, our king?
I was actually going to say Chig might be our guy. The Jaguars have really struggled against tight ends this year. I believe they've allowed the most receptions in the NFL. That might be a week outdated. I haven't checked the updated number there. But that's exactly the type of guy who certainly can break one after the catch. And I think his snap share has increased over the last bunch of weeks. I don't hate that. I don't hate taking flyers on any of these guys. Like Nick Westbrook-Ikhine is playing a lot. He's going to get some downfield targets. This is the whole play, which is like the books are pricing in not a quarterback who is as aggressive as Will Levis. If Westbrook-Ikhine is, over 65 yards is 15-1, that's exactly how the Titans are going to win. It's one of these guys connecting on a deep shot. So maybe the answer there is taking a bunch of flyers, I think, on different wide receivers to win. And you're going to just get huge odds in this scenario just because of the base rate of the Jaguars being 7-point favorites. And I'm sure Will Levis's prop is going to open around 210 or 215, which is really giving you a lot of room here.
All right, where to next?
Next, I'm going to go with Jameson Williams. I think this is an interesting sort of build. I'm actually kind of fascinated by this Chicago game. You can even make a case for me to take the Chicago side of this, which maybe will make its way in there, running back the Fields passing and Chicago spread. But really what I like about this play is the Bears are becoming a real extreme pass funnel, which is probably my favorite spot at this point to attack, especially kind of this late in the season when we have a good idea of like who the good run defenses are and who the good pass defenses are. And I don't think this is priced appropriately, but the Bills are awesome against the run right now. The Lions are one of the more extreme kind of run teams among elite offenses, right? We tend to see the best offenses, the Chiefs, the Bills, the Bengals, the Eagles even this year as like very pass heavy. The Lions are a negative, pass over expected. I think that's going to change in this game. And I'm also going to be playing the sort of angle of Jameson Williams' snap share has been trickling up and up and up and up. I think that the Bears know they're going to have to devote all of their attention to Amon-Ra St. Brown, where Kyler Gordon's also been really good in the slot. they're going to take some deep shots to Jameson Williams. They're going to pass more, I think. He's had a couple of off weeks, but the usage is all there. The air yards are there. I'm expecting at least a couple of deep shots. He can convert on a couple of those, or even one of those. I think he can fly over, and we can hit a nice SGP.
Like that quite a bit. The interesting thing about the Lions is I think their run game, sort of precedes them, right? And so, not only will you have a Bears team who has been better against the run, Brad's Bears, but they're probably going to go in and tell themselves, look, we just have to stop the run. That's the key, right? If we can just stop the run, then we have a chance to win this game. And that, I think, sets up really nicely because you have a team in the Lions who will probably anticipate that well, come out and run a lot of play action, get James Williams going down the field. And you just have a game, just came off of a game, as we talked about last week. One of our locks of the week was Amon-Ra St. Brown, cooking the Chargers in the slot. He was electric. And so now it's like, okay, we got to stop the run, and like, heaven forbid we let Amon-Ra St. Brown, beat us. And so, you set up for this opportunity. I think, that's a really interesting spot. How would you play that together? Would you play that with, Goff, the spread, and Williams? What are you thinking there?
I don't even think it's a spread play. I think it's Goff and maybe even a like Jameson Williams under receptions and over receiving yards to like really kind of play this. It's only going to be a deep shot, sort of like, because the Lions really spread it around outside of Amon-Ra St. Brown. You're going to get Laporta, you're going to get Reynolds, you're going to get Raymond. But again, this is one of those where it depends on pricing, but the general angle of like Lions passing game applies. And then also the kind of like narrower one that I like is Jameson Williams here, but both certainly work. The next one, yeah.
Would you get real quick? Would you get a negative correlation between the over yards and under receptions?
Yeah, big one. Yeah. That's one of my favorite. Like, obviously, if you just like consider, if you're going to price across all player props, which is how books do it, there's no kind of like tailoring to specific players. It's going to be a lot more correlated to have more receptions and more yards. But that's obviously not true equally of each player. That's one of my favorite angles in general to attack. But I'll go to a couple of ones. This is a little bit more prognosticating because I don't have the props here in front of me, but I'm going to go back with Matthew Stafford and this passing attack against the Seattle Seahawks. I think it's like everyone's kind of written off the Rams. Stafford was hurt. They got blown out by Dallas. They lost that horrible Brett Rippon game. They were on a bye. It's been a while. But like, this is still a really good offense. And their guys are healthy right now. The Seahawks are absolutely dreadful in terms of their ability to generate pressure. I mean, like, you don't want to like erase games, but like take out the Monday Night Football game against the Giants where they were going up against the three of us on the offensive line. And like, this team cannot generate pressure. You're right. You probably would have been better than whoever was out there for the Giants. But we always talk about wanting to bet Stafford in games where the situation is kind of good around him. It's the healthiest his receivers have been. And you want to be going up against a team that cannot generate a pass rush. I'm not particularly scared of the Seattle secondary. Devon Witherspoon's been great on the ball. He hasn't been great in terms of his ability to prevent separation. None of the corners have been. The Rams guys are going to get open. Stafford should have plenty of time to throw. This is like textbook bet Matthew Stafford in this spot, I think. I'm hoping that Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp have pretty kind of, I don't know, maybe like a 15 to 20 yard difference, because when those guys are both on the field, they have the exact same target share. I think they're equally likely to hit. I also wouldn't hate both of them hitting. If Stafford could very well throw for 350 yards in this game, you can get that correlation of both wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2 here, because there can be plenty of passing volume, plenty of explosive plays to go around on both sides. I will be looking to build around the Rams passing attack and specifically same game parlays, including both Nacua and Kupp.
This one might be my favorite thus far. Brad, we've talked a bunch about the spot in terms of Stafford, versus decent pass rush versus no pass rush. And remember week 1, as co-chairs of the Seahawks bandwagon, which is what Brad and I are official titles here at PFF. We had to witness an absolute demolition derby by Stafford. I mean, that's like still, I think, the reason why we have faith in their offense. We've seen that kind of a situation, and they didn't have Cup in that game.
Yeah.
Worth noting.
I guess I'll get 2 more just very quick ones. I'm hoping we're going to get a Dorian Thompson-Robinson, 170 passing prop situation. Like I'll just Will Levis's prop in his first game was like 160 against Atlanta, which was wild. I hit like a 40-1 like Will Levis 225 in Tennessee money line because like his alt at 225 is like plus 800 because it was like, oh, Will Levis is actually Malik Willis. So I'm hoping we get a similar like DTR situation, where it's like, oh my, he was the worst quarterback ever against Baltimore. Like, yeah, it's possible he's the worst quarterback, in the NFL. Tommy DeVito, that's tough. It's possible he's the second worst quarterback in the NFL. It's also possible that like he was in a really terrible situation, being told like 3 hours before the game that he was starting, going up against one of the best defenses in the league, and that was just like his bad percentile performance. Like we have no certainty about DTR, but if the market's going to say, and I have a sneaky feeling they will, that like DTR is a horrible passer, I'm going to want to take the overs, especially against the Steelers defense, which I love to fade. They're allowing the most explosive plays in the NFL. It does not take that much for an NFL quarterback to hit 250 yards, and if we're going to get 10-1 on that, I'm going to bet it. We'll leave our same game parlays at that, I think.
I think that's a good slate, a better slate than I actually anticipated initially when I looked at the slate. But you have a way of finding some good stuff for us. All right, we're going to get to the locks of the week, where I promise we will hear from Brad. Getting a lot of people that are asking Brad if you're on the podcast or not. If you froze, so it'll be all Brad in the next segment. I promise. Before we get there, a couple of things to let the good people know about. First is we just talked about a bunch of different angles for this upcoming week, and you should go leverage those at Prize Picks. This podcast very kindly is brought to you by Prize Picks. One of the cool things about it, super, super easy to use. Go to prizepicks.com and you're immediately going to figure it out. I don't need to explain it to you. But you can essentially combine different overs and unders for specific stats and even fantasy points as well, for your favorite players. And you can win up to, I believe it is 20x your money. So it is a really fantastic product, really easy to use. And they've got some cool stuff going on right now. If you want, you can play a combination of sports. So you can do LeBron James and Travis Kelce, for example. They also have an opportunity for you to play against your favorite kind of personalities. So you can play against Meek Mill, you can play against Andrew Schultz in their community plays, which is kind of cool. And they offer a reboot policy so that if your entry stays in play, even if one of the players gets injured. This is obviously huge for football because nothing sucks more than having a bet and it lose because the guy gets injured. That's why PrizePicks is the best daily fantasy sports platform that is out there. They have an injury insurance policy. How awesome is that? So go to prizepicks.com/forecast. Use the code forecast for a first deposit match of $100. Again, that's prizepicks.com/forecast and use code forecast for a deposit match of up to $100. Also, it is not a bird. It's not a plane. It's the most revolutionary ball trimmer the world has ever seen. Now, don't give me credit for that segue. That's actually the read. I just read that off the screen, so I don't want to grade on that one. But gentlemen, the time is now. It is getting close to that holiday season. There's going to be a lot of expectations for you to make other people happy. And one of the best ways to do that is to be well-groomed. I promise you this. They have a new Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. It will make you feel ultra good and keep you ultra safe because it has a new 5th generation trimmer, which has a next gen skin safe blade head. Whatever the hell that is, it works because you are, I can promise you this, going to feel very safe when you use it. I use it. Fantastic. no chance that you're going to get cut, which is fantastic. And very important for those places down there that you can't really afford to cut yourself. It's not a good look. So go pick one of those up and get 20% off plus free shipping with the promo code PFF when you go to manscaped.com. Get yourself that lawnmower 5.0. All right. We are on to the locks of the week. A perfect week last week. So we have our work cut out for us to keep that going. Brad, we'll start with you.
I'll start with a prop here. I think the angle here is buying low on DeAndre Swift and his rushing yards in this game. So Kansas City is 31st in EPA per rush allowed, dead last in success rate against the run. And I think we've seen this season from Philadelphia drastically different game plans on a week-to-week basis. One main element being, which I don't love from this standpoint, but the way they use pace of play depending on the opponent. And I think in this game, they're going to play very slow, run the ball a ton, whereas we've seen them in other games, where they feel they have the advantage, want to maximize possessions. They probably throw more and play faster. But anyway, I think they are going to try to run the ball a lot on this team. And why I'm saying buying low, I think the market here has two things that are a bit interesting to me. So first, Kenny Gainwell did get in and score a touchdown last week, but he still had 3 carries. He hasn't had 5 carries, I think, in like 7-8 weeks. And he had 22 yards, which is also the most he's had since week 1. And his prop is 20.5 yards on DraftKings. So I guess you're betting he's going to have 3 carries for 20-plus yards again after not hitting that number for 3 weeks. The second angle is Jalen Hurts' rushing prop hasn't really adjusted to his knee issue. He did have 37 rushing yards the last game they played, but he had 21 in week 7, his second fewest in a game, and 7 in week 8, his fewest in a game, and then did kind of pop off a little bit in the most recent game. And I know they're on a bye, but they've kind of said like this issue isn't going away, at least permanently, for a while. So for both of those reasons, and then DeAndre Swift did fumble twice in their last game. But we know the NFL cares more about results than process or whatever. They recovered both of those. So in their eyes, he didn't really fumble at all. And I guess I shouldn't say it about Philadelphia. They probably do care because they're actually smart, unlike many other teams. But anyway, so it's 55.5 yards here. I like the matchup. This is a lower prop for him than it's been most of the season because of all the things I just mentioned that I don't actually think make a whole lot of sense to me as to why his number is so far down. He gets 15-plus carries pretty much every game, and I think he will again in this one off a bye.
I love it. I love it. Judah?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Hassan Reddick under 0.25 sacks at minus 105. Hassan Reddick, solid edge player. We have him, ranked 30th, I believe. There it is, 30th in the pass rush grade. He's good. Not going to deny it. Patrick Mahomes is an absolute whiz at evading sacks. That is the single skill that makes Mahomes. I mean, like, good in structure, great. His ability to get out of pockets and avoid sacks is likely the best in NFL history. And I don't think the market is pricing in the fact that Patrick Mahomes is playing quarterback. Right? Basically even money for half a sack would imply that, like, I don't know, Reddick gets a sack maybe like half the time. But like, we're talking about, the most difficult quarterback to sack in NFL history. The matchups don't even really matter. If you're going to give me even money at an under sack prop, and like, it's not Myles Garrett on the other side. It's not TJ Watt. Like, Hassan Reddick, solid. But the base rates just do not line up with Patrick Mahomes' ability to avoid sacks.
So maybe my favorite angle that we've talked about thus far, and one of the reasons I love it is that I was one of the idiots that bet Hassan Reddick at long odds to win MVP of the Super Bowl, and then witnessed the Kansas City Chiefs literally take him off the field. Like, he did not exist in the game. It was absolutely insane. And, you look over here and like, yeah, they have a weakness at right tackle. This is actually a improvement over what Andrew Wiley was last year. So am I worried about Juwan Taylor? No, absolutely not. They had a phenomenal game plan last year. I think they'll have a phenomenal game plan this year. We're going to make it a trio of bets on this game because my first lock of the week is going to be Rashee Rice. Okay. The Kansas City Chiefs have had a bye. What they have had to figure out in this bye is very simple. Who in the hell is going to show up at receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs. And the only receiver that has done anything kind of remotely consistently well is Rashee Rice. I think Justin Watson has in spurts, but like needs to learn how to catch the ball. Rashee Rice is a guy that Mahomes has confidence in and plays a little bit like Kelsey in that way that he kind of just finds open spots. So I love his player prop, especially given who he's facing here in the slot with Eli Ricks in coverage. Darius Slay has been nowhere near as good as he has been in the past, and neither has James Bradbury. So I think a ton of opportunities to their 90th coverage grade. A lot of opportunity for Rashee Rice. And by the way, the last time these two teams played, there was no Rashee Rice. There was a Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce caught like 100 balls in the Super Bowl. So right now, seeing his total at 45.5, his passing yardage prop has increased fairly steadily over the past few weeks, but he soared over it. He's got 72 yards against the Broncos, 56 in the second matchup against the Broncos, and 60 against the Chargers. So I'm not particularly worried about his low total against the Dolphins. That was kind of a weird and wonky game. So I am going Rashee Rice over 43.5 passing yards.
I like that we have 3 bets in the same game, but none of those props like work against each other. So they're all,
That's good.
Yeah. So I'll go to a Wong teaser here. Now that Justin Fields has been announced as a starter, it is down to 8 or 8.5 for the Detroit Lions, depending where you're looking. I will say this. I don't think the Bears' run defense numbers are entirely fraudulent. Go look at the last 5 teams they've played and then go look at how good those teams are running the football. It's a little bit fraudulent that they're now like number 1 in the NFL in EPA, or I think maybe number 2 or 3, whatever it is. Like, it's a good unit. You also add Montez Sweat, who hasn't even played that much yet, who is the highest run defending edge in the entire NFL. So I think it's a good unit, but I'm not sure it's like as good as the numbers look right now. But anyway, that's not the purpose of the bet. So Justin Fields even said himself he's not 100% healthy, but it's like, he feels comfortable. He feels better. I imagine he is going to be very rusty in this game because you can't really practice when your throwing hand thumb was your injury. I do think before you get in with the joke, yes, he's an upgrade over Tyson Bagent. Yes, the spread moved in the correct direction from 10 to 8. But I do now love bringing the Lions down to 2. And you said it's a pass funnel. I do love the Jameson Williams shout. His blocking on the David Montgomery touchdown, I think, is going to like earn him 3 targets just because it was such a good block. I'm not even kidding. That's probably how Dan Campbell operates. So Lions down to 2 or 2.5. And then for me, there's a bunch of other leg options. But right now at FanDuel, you can get the Steelers up to 7.5 with a total of 33 in that game. So whenever I can get a team over a touchdown with a 33-point total, I thought about Minnesota as well, maybe Philadelphia. But I'll go with the Lions and the Steelers 6-point Wong teaser.
I'm a big fan. Big fan of the Wong teaser there. Judah?
I'm going to go with Amari Cooper over 42.5 receiving yards. His closing, I'll go with his closing prop of the last 4 weeks: 65.5, 50.5, 56.5, 53.5. Mind you, last week against the Ravens. It's 42.5 this week. Okay, which maybe tells me all I need to know about Dorian Thompson-Robinson, where his passing prop is going to sit. He's gone over his passing prop. He's gone over his receiving prop in 3 of those 4 games. Just by the way, by a large margin. His median is like 25 yards higher right now than his current passing prop. And like, I don't know what I've been missing, but Deshaun Watson can't throw for passing yards. Like he's been as bad as anyone could be. Like Dorian Thompson-Robinson might be a bad quarterback. Like the passing yardage output can't be that different when you're starting from a base that is already unbelievably low. And I think this is an incredible matchup. He's going to be running a lot of his routes against Patrick Peterson, who's been absolutely dreadful. They play a ton of man coverage. Amari Cooper's been one of the best man coverage beaters in the NFL since he's entered the league. That hasn't slowed down this year. 42.5 is just an egregiously low number. Like they're moving that prop way too far. And it's a great matchup for him. They're going to be passing. I love this Amari Cooper over.
Big fan. It's something that I saw someone post was that in games without Watson, that Cooper has a much lower target rate. And yes, that's predominantly PJ Walker, right? So I think what we know about DTR is just so much less than we think we do. And so, overcompensating by that amount, probably not super accurate. And, if he's going to throw the ball to anyone, like who else is he going to have any confidence in? So it wouldn't be surprising for him there. Okay. My next one is another prop. This is Terry McLaurin. So the New York Football Giants, not a great team, right? We've talked about this a couple of times, and everyone is focused on the fact that they have Tommy DeVito. And yes, Tommy DeVito is not very good, but I want to point you in the direction of their two cornerbacks. There are 113 corners that we have graded this year, okay? The two on the outside for the Giants rank 108th and 110th respectively. Now, before you say, wow, that's not very good, the other thing to note here is that the New York Football Giants are probably going to blitz a lot, as they have so far. And Sam Howell did not do particularly well against their blitz the first time that they played. But to Judah's point, they have really turned the corner in terms of their scheme. He's getting rid of the ball a little bit more quickly. They're bringing some people in order to protect a little bit better. And that will give him the time to find Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson down the football field. Now, I do not see any props. Let me see. Actually, let me refresh again because no, I do see it now. I'm seeing 58.5 for Scary Terry. I'm going to go over 58.5 receiving yards for Terry McLaurin.
I got another prop here. I found this to be a very interesting split. I tried to poke some holes in it and make sure it's not just super matchup specific. From my perspective, it isn't. So this is a kind of a shocking revelation as I've been looking more and more into the specific kind of matchup, like how a team performs against receivers or tight ends or where a guy is aligned. The Carolina Panthers, from a coverage standpoint, are top 5 in coverage grade. They're first in EPA per play, and they're 6th in success rate when covering slot receivers, which I found particularly interesting. I'm surprised they're top 5 in anything that they do. And they're also maybe getting J.C. Horn back in this game. Potentially, he's not going to travel, I imagine, with CD. He'll probably get him when he plays outside and probably have Brandon Cooks. Jake Ferguson leads the National Football League in targets in the red zone this season. So there's nothing out on him yet. You could do, my thinking there was because this game could be maybe a blowout. We talked about taking them in the first half. Maybe they stop throwing the football at a certain point. Maybe a touchdown score prop on Jake Ferguson, whatever that does drop. We don't have the price yet, but they always look his way in the red zone. And the Panthers, I mentioned how good they are against slot receivers. They are bottom 5 in the NFL against tight ends in coverage grade, EPA per target, and success rate. Or bottom 10.
That's big fan of that one, especially because of how hot CD has been. So everything is going to be, skewed in CD's direction. But kind of having usually we think of that kind of a narrative in one direction where it's just like, okay, is a team really bad at covering this particular player? But when you compare that with the best player on the offense going against a good portion of that defense, I think is really cool. All right, Judah, you're up.
Yeah, my last one, we're going to go with the teaser. I was going to say fade New York, but Buffalo's in there, so it doesn't really work. But fading the, New York City teams, we're going to take the Bills down to 1, and the Commanders that's 3. Never mind, that line moved. It's now it's 9. I was saying 8.5. So I take it back. That's I have
one for you. Can I give you a leg to pair with your Bills down to 1?
Sure.
So I think my now it doesn't totally cross 7, but I very much like the Rams getting out to getting a full touchdown in this game.
That would have been my third also.
Yeah. Now the total does scare me a little bit, but I don't know. I think in general this is a good matchup for the Rams. I do also think that the money line is interesting here as well for Los Angeles, but it's kind of the perfect narrative. And if we believe that Matt Stafford is healthy enough, to play in this game, then I don't think there's any reason to be scared about him, getting hurt in this game. At 3-6, like this is kind of make it or break it, right? Like they have to win this game. It's a divisional game. If they want any chance at kind of keeping their season alive and making a wild card push, which I think is the only reason like Matt Stafford is coming back in this game, then they need to put their money where their mouth is in this one. Will be a lot of Seahawks fans, but I'd rather have Seahawks fans than Seahawks pass rushers, and that's what you're going to get in this one. So we got some teasers on deck. I have one more that I do like, and I'll preface this by saying that I have not loved a lot of totals so far this year, but this one is one that I do like a decent amount, and this is Tampa Bay, San Francisco, 41.5. Why do I like the over? One reason is that I think San Francisco could score 42 points by themselves. But the second is that while I don't think Baker Mayfield is going to do particularly well when under siege from the San Francisco 49ers, I do think that this is a spot where a Mike Evans, a Chris Godwin, I do think they can win. And here's the thing. The tackles for the Tampa Bay Bucks, I know I'm on the wrong page here, so let me get over to that. The tackles for the Bucks have actually been decent. And so while I do think that the Niners are going to have a lot of success offensively, I'm not saying they won't have success defensively, but I do think this is a spot where they might be able to slow them down ever so just enough that they can get the ball up to Mike Evans and out to Chris Godwin and have some success. So 41.5 in San Francisco, going to be really decent and moderate weather. Big spread. So, if the Niners do put up a big number, the Bucks really don't have to do a lot to get this over 41.5, which I like. And that is my last one. So, Brad, unless you've got any more, it's decision time.
It's decision time, baby.
All right. What do you someone asked if they missed a Sam Howell SGP. There's no Sam Howell SGP, just to prove that unlike Get Up, we don't just run the same storylines over and over and over and over again. So yeah, as executive producer of Get Up, I'm able to say that.
I feel like we've had a lot of Sam Howell love, but there hasn't been too many Sam Howell SGPs. I feel like we've only done that like maybe 2 or 3 times. Dave, I'm sorry if let it down. I think what Dave means to say is he sees Sam Howell leading the NFL in passing yards. He knows we love Sam Howell. He's really just celebrating with us. And Dave, I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's true. Although 3 of 11 weeks is, almost 30%. So I think that's a decent.
Then we're good.
The only one I remember was the Broncos one. That was the most heartbreaking loss in the history of sports gambling. So I'm guessing maybe that has something to do with it.
And then CJ Stroud decided to one up it last week.
True.
Yeah, that was brutal. All right, Brad, what are your favorites here?
I'm trying to think here. Let's go over what we even said. I'm overwhelmed. We had a lot this week.
We've got our Eagles Chiefs plays.
True.
Under Hassan Reddick, we had DeAndre Swift.
What's
George had
Rasheed
Rice.
total?
Yeah, Rasheed. 55.5 for Swift. You said 43.5 for Rasheed. Under a quarter, minus 105 for Reddick. I like all those. I actually think I might like Rasheed the most. I mean, you're right. I mean, under around even money for a Patrick Mahomes pass rusher is always literally it should be an auto bet. So I don't hate that either. I do hate the matchup with Juwan Taylor, but again, it's not about that. It's about Patrick Mahomes. So I could be talking to that easily. And I do like the Rasheed shout a lot. What else? What else do we have?
We're taking the Hassan Reddick one off the board.
You're not a fan of the Hassan Reddick one. See,
I love that. I love the Hassan Reddick one. I just Brad seems a little skeptical.
I just said I loved it. No. Now after I'm the only person that showed history to talk us out of a bet and a cash in like the first quarter. So no, we're taking Hassan Reddick over. Under a quarter. Love it. Best bet of all time. Lock it in. I do love I love my Steelers Lions teaser. I'll throw it in there. You got to be
Yeah.
on FanDuel, by the way. FanDuel has Steelers plus 1.5. I don't see the 1.5 anywhere else.
I don't know why.
I do love the Steelers as a teaser leg. I don't love the Bears as a teaser leg though.
You mean
So,
Lions
like,
or
Say
sorry,
the
or
Lions.
fading the Bears?
the
Yeah,
Lions. Yeah.
I've got a sneaky Bears feeling here.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Do we throw any other legs out there?
Yeah, we had Rams, we had Bills.
I could be talked into the Rams for sure. I do think we're going to get like the new coach bump from Buffalo, and they'll probably be a good game. But yeah, either one's fine with me. I like those three teaser legs, all three teaser legs for sure.
Yeah, I can get behind the Bills. The Bills. So I really like the Jake Ferguson bet. I think that was one of my favorite ones. What are the options for us here? Is there anything that's actually
I don't see anything. I think the way we play it, which is, a little silly to call it a lock, but I think we go first TD score. I think that might be the play, and just go for because like we could do anytime TD, but the whole premise is basically they're going to score early. They're third in the NFL in scoring drive rate on scripted drives. They're third in the NFL in scoring drive rate in the first half. And it's just a good matchup with Carolina shockingly being good against slot receivers. I don't know. That's probably going to be like 18-1 or better. He does lead the NFL in red zone targets, so I'm sure Vegas is
like 10 to 1.
Yeah. I think that's how you play it. You can do a half unit on Jake Ferg first TD score.
I'm in.
Okay.
The only other one so the other two that I had were Scary Terry over and Bucks Niners over. And then did you have any others, Brad?
I think it's it. I like Scary Terry. The Bucks Niners one scares me. The narrative is perfect. I agree because the Bucks tackles are good. I don't know, man. Like Baker's a pumpkin, and then I don't know. Like the Bucks defense woke up. They had good games from all their defensive linemen finally, and I just hate this Niners O line. I like the Scary Terry one. I'm not a huge fan. Now I'm doing it. Now I'm telling there's gonna be 60 points in that game, but I don't love it.
You've heard it first.
Yeah.
We don't want to jinx it though. The Scary Terry one I do like, but I feel like we've got some good ones thus far. So we've got Hassan Reddick under a quarter sack, under 0.25 sacks. We have Rashee Rice over 43.5 receiving yards. We have what was the teaser? So that we have the Steelers out to
7.5.
7.5. And
they were doing
Bills down to 1.
Okay.
And then say that again.
You got the Jake Ferg.
And then Jake Ferg, half Yoon, first tutty.
There you go. I don't even know what that meant.
That's way too fast. That is way too
I love that bet. It's gonna we're gonna get like a Jalen Tolbert tutty. I'm gonna be furious.
Yeah, what we do know now is that all of the bets that we mentioned that we didn't bet are going to hit. So do what you need to do accordingly. You heard it here first. That is our show. We will be back on Sunday night after an electric Sunday night football game. I'm going to need to find something to bet on that because I don't know how the hell else we are going to get through Vikings Broncos, but we will. And maybe we'll start the podcast a little early. Who knows? But we will see you on Sunday night with our buddy Arjun. Have a wonderful rest of your week. We love you all. Peace.